Good morning. Welcome to King's Reports News Hour for Friday, the 15th year of Chungi, the 11th month, and now the 13th day of the heavenly calendar. And don't say Friday the 13th. Father was very fond of the number 13. I don't know about Friday, but anyway, he was fond of the number 13, that is for sure. And I've always wondered why. I'm not entirely sure. Of course, it's explained, okay, Jesus plus 12 disciples. I think there's a deeper reason than that. Anyway, I have not come across a deeper reason. In any case, Tim Hill is sitting for the second king of Chunuguk, and here we go to the 5 places where the king has planted the Chunuguk flag. In Chongpyeong, Tennessee, currently 27 degrees, rather brisk there, and mostly clear skies, intervals of clouds and sunshine today, high of 47. Tonight, getting down to 33 degrees under partly cloudy skies. And in Northeast Pennsylvania at the Cheonggyeong Palace, 22 degrees, mostly clear skies, 33 for a high today, plenty of sunshine with less wind. It won't feel as harsh. That's nice. Tonight clear and a low of 20. Right, so it's winter there. And then in Liberty Rock RV Park Campground in Limestone County, Texas, currently 53 degrees under cloudy skies, a high of 62 today. Tonight breezy. This evening and cloudy and mild with a couple of showers and getting down to 57. Okay. And then at the Suncheon Palace in Korea, currently 37 under clear skies, clear and cold tonight, getting down to 24, high of 43 tomorrow with plenty of sunshine. And then at the Gunma Palaces in Japan, 37 degrees under partly cloudy skies, getting down to 34 tonight, and then up to 51 tomorrow, mostly sunny. A touch of rain today, some freezing this evening, it says here. Alrighty then. Let's go to Father's Word. Okay. And here. Oh, all right, we're in the book on True Parent. The True Parent, chapter 8. The 3 subject thought and the declaration of the true parent. Okay. And I guess we're in, okay, well, I want to try to figure that out. Where are we? Anyway, we're in chapter 8. So, okay. If Adam and Eve themselves had not fallen and had become true parents, then there would be no need for religion. If that had happened, in other words, if Adam and Eve had not fallen and become true parents, if that had happened, then centering on that, heaven and earth would have come together in virtue, and then centering on the ideal oneness of heaven and earth, ancestors would be able to come to the earth and connect with their descendants on the earth at any time that they wanted, right? One thing that distinguishes our faith community from many others is that we do not believe that being a member of our community gets you a special pass to heaven. Yeah, because as the king has often said in his sermons, especially in his early sermons, and if you go back to 2000, especially 14, 15, 16 perhaps, he emphasized that it's not about religion, it's about relationship. And Father's teaching is all about relationship, isn't it? And even of course social scientists agree that human beings are social animals. I don't know about animals, but anyway, that we are social beings. And Father, of course, expands on that quite a bit. They're talking about we are all, at any given time, we are all in subject-object relationship. We are all in some sort of Cain-Abel relationship. We're all in relationships. We're always, always, always in relationships. So going to heaven is about relationships. It's about, excuse me. Yeah. It's about our relationship with God. It's about our relationship with each other. And that is why Father emphasizes that no one goes to heaven alone. FYI, no one goes to heaven alone. I've said that a lot, but it needs to be said many, many times because this is a very important break, or shall we say, development from traditional Christianity. The Father says, that other Christian faith groups will emphasize the salvation of the individual. His teachings emphasize the salvation of families. And the family is the fundamental, basic building block of the kingdom of heaven. Not the individual, but the family is the basic building block of the kingdom of heaven. And the family is the school of love. It is within the family where we learn love, we learn how to love, we learn to receive love, we learn to give love. And, sometimes those lessons can get a little bit kinetic. Kinetic as the military term, I suppose. Yeah. Sometimes they can get kinetic, but the king has also emphasized that this is all part of the process of learning to love each other. All part of the process of learning to love each other. And of course, Father has talked about 4 types of love, or in Father's, or he says it's 4 types of shimjong, or shimjong, of course, being the irrepressible impulse of the heart to give love to an object partner so as to experience joy and love. And from shimjong, from that irrepressible impulse, right, to give love. So it is from shimjong that love flows. So essentially 4 types of shimjong. Another way of saying it is almost the same as saying that there are 4 types of love. And one is the love of a child for their parents, and love of siblings for each other, love of husband and wife for each other, and then the love of parents for their children. And we have to grow as we grow in the family. We learn and experience. We learn through experience of these 4 types of love, and sort of master them, shall we say? Master them. Father says to complete them, but I think a good way of expressing that is English would be to say that we master those 4 types of love in the family. And then once we've done that, then that family as a unit, goes to the kingdom of heaven. So that means you got husband, wife, and you got all your children together. Of course, Father says, no, that's not enough. You also got to have your kinfolk. The bar to the kingdom of heaven is pretty high, yes. But it is high. However, we're all going to get there eventually. It's that final word that is that is what I want. Yeah. But anyway, the final word makes it special, doesn't it? We'll all get to heaven eventually. Yes. Even the archangel is going to be restored, because the archangel is a part of God's original ideal of creation. The archangel had a role. That role, of course, was education. And so in our community, we have educators. Those educators are fulfilling the role of the archangel. Don't think that just because someone knows the principle, or can teach the principle, can lecture the principle, can lecture father's teachings. Don't think that just because they can do that, that they are somehow further along on the course to heaven than you are. Because remember, the archangel, hey, Lucifer knows the principle better than any of us because he was there. He was there. He was there when God was creating the world, and it was his role to teach Adam and Eve how that all happened, and to submit himself to God's direct lineage on earth. Okay. And he would have, if God's direct lineage on earth had fulfilled their responsibility. In other words, had fulfilled their portion of responsibility. All right, so let's see what is going on in terms of the crumbling, shall we say, of the satanic world around us. In Korea, as I mentioned, a second impeachment vote has been scheduled for Saturday. And there is some speculation, I think, even among the supporters of the president, that this time it may succeed. Media is reporting that the opposition party has been, of course, they've been working on the government party members, trying to get them to come over, and they need 8 people to come over to their side, or in other words, 8 people to vote for, to be present and vote for the impeachment in order for that to happen. And they need 8, and media in South Korea currently reporting that it looks like they have 7. So it's possible that over the next 24 hours or so, that an 8th person will go over, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. President Yoon has come out and said, listen, I did this to call attention to the fact that South Korea is in a very dire situation, that South Korea is in danger of succumbing to communist forces. And I agree with him. I agree with him. I agree that that is the situation that South Korea is facing right now. And so he put his political life on the line, and potentially even his physical life on the line. Potentially, even the opposition party has talked about the possibility of capital punishment for him if they can take him to court and prove insurrection. And even the opposition party has raised that possibility. So potentially even his physical life on the line in order to do what he thought best to save the country. From my perspective right now, it looks like maybe it would have been better to try a different way, but I don't know. I'm not in this position. I'm not sitting there at the presidential desk there making these decisions. So anyway, he says that he's not going to step down. He's not going to resign. He's going to, if he's impeached, then he will fight that impeachment in the Constitutional Court. Korea has an interesting system. It's different from America. They have the Supreme Court, and then separate from the Supreme Court, there's also a Constitution Court. And then the impeachment will be handled by that Constitution Court, and the Constitution Court will hear arguments from both sides, and then there have to be 6 votes on the Constitution Court. 9 is right now there are 3 seats vacant, but including those 3 vacant seats, there are 9 seats on the Constitution Court, and 6 of them have to vote in favor of the impeachment in order for him to be removed from office. And as I've explained before, once he's removed, then there will be a new election for a new president in about 2 months. And actually, once the National Assembly passes the impeachment, his powers as president will be suspended, and someone else will take over as an acting president. Normally, you would think that this would be the prime minister, but the opposition party, I think, is trying to impeach the prime minister as well. So things are pretty. Anyway, there's a lot going on there. We'll have to wait and see how it unfolds. All right, enough about Korea. Let's look at Syria. Syria, today is Friday, and in Islam, Friday is the day of prayer, and this is the first Friday after the fall of Assad. So there's kind of a day of celebration, and celebrations are going on around the country. And so, and people are being released from jail and so forth. Yesterday, a man who claims to be an American and may actually be an American was released. Let's see here. There's a warning here from a Kurdish commander in eastern Syria, and the Kurds are guarding some prisoner camps that are holding ISIS people and their families, and there are a number of these camps, and the commander of one of the camps is warning that, listen, if we have to let these people go, then ISIS is going to come back. And as the 900 U.S. troops that are in eastern Syria are also somehow assisting those Kurd forces in holding the sort of ISIS people within those fences. And the U.S. Is emphasizing almost on a daily basis that whatever happens, we have to make sure that this whole situation does not lead to the resurgence of ISIS. Okay. Of course, you know what Father would say, right? Actually, when was it Iraq? I think it was Iraq. Yeah, when the Iraq War was about to start or something like that, somewhere around there, Father gave his solution. He says, "Send in the educators. Send in the educators, and have them just send in just a large number of educators and teach them the principle, and then this will help us avoid the whole war situation." So I suspect that if Father were to speak to us directly, he would say, "Hey, you got these people in prison camps? You got a captive audience? Great! What are you doing? Sending the principal educators and teach them the principle. They're in prison camps, so they got to listen." Maybe he would say that. Yeah. Father emphasized education as a solution to many, many problems. It's a solution to communism. Teach the people the principle, and also I think for these Islamists or people who call themselves Islamists who want to blow things up, I find would also emphasize the role of education for them as well. Might be a tough audience. I don't know. Could be a tough audience. I don't know. But unfortunately, I don't think we're really equipped right now to handle a Muslim audience or an Islamic audience. There was a time when Father was reaching out to the Islamic community, and he gave the blessing to some imams and sheikhs, some pretty high up people in the Islamic community of certain countries. Father did not say that they have to become Christian. He did not say that they have to join the Unification Church. But what he did say was you have to receive the blessing. You know. Sometimes Father would have religious leaders on the stage with him, a Buddhist priest, for example, a high-ranking Korean Buddhist priest, or a Catholic priest, or something like that. And what would he tell them, right? He would go up to them and sort of poke them in the head and stuff like that, and say, because in Korean Buddhism, priests are not allowed to be married. In most, at least the mainline Korean Buddhism, and it's different from Japan in that sense. He would sort of poke them in the head and say, "You got to get married." And also to the Catholic priest, he would have to say, "You have to receive the blessing," which means, of course, you have to form a marital relationship with a woman. His emphasis was always learn the principle, receive the blessing. Learn the principle, receive the blessing. Learn the principle, receive the blessing. That was Father's emphasis all the time, all the time, all the time. Of course, receiving the blessing is not the end of the story. Then, of course, you have to form a family centered on God. Anyway, so yes, yeah. But it's interesting to think what's happening right now. First, okay, you had October 7th of last year. Terrible, terrible, terrible thing happened on October 7th, 2023. And a lot of people were killed. A lot of people were kidnapped. Massacre, terrible thing. And Israel, understandably, said, okay, we're going to go in and we're going to make sure that this never happens again. And they are doing it to the extent that many people are referring to, saying that there's genocide going on. The International Criminal Court has put out an arrest warrant for Netanyahu, and world opinion is very much negative towards Israel. Israel is saying, we don't care. We're going to do what's necessary for us to be able to live here, live in this space, without having to worry about people coming in and killing hundreds or even more than 1,000 of our people and kidnapping hundreds of our people. We're going to do what we need to do to guarantee that. So when they started the situation in Gaza, then Hezbollah in Lebanon started daily shelling of Israeli communities in the northern part of Israel. And so once the Gaza situation was pretty much under control, then Israel said, okay, now we're going to turn our attention to Hezbollah and we're going to wipe them out. We're going to take care of them. Now that we've pretty much done that with the Hamas and Hezbollah. So they did that, and then that had a chain reaction, which led to the downfall of the Assad government in Syria, because Hezbollah was one of the main supports of the Assad regime. The other one, of course, being Russia, and Russia was involved, of course, in Ukraine and couldn't really come to help. And Iran also was supporting, but things sort of happened so quickly in Syria that Iran didn't have time. Or Iran saw that the momentum was very much against Assad, and so okay, well, we don't want to go in there, and if we're going to lose, and so Syria then was the next domino to fall. So what's next? Who's next? Is it going to stop here? There's a lot of talk about Iran. That somehow the fall of Syria has now weakened the Iranian regime. I have to wait and see. I don't know if this is going to necessarily lead to the downfall of Iran. We will have to wait. My concern is that Iran may want to demonstrate that they are not weak, and so they may launch some sort of a weapon against Israel, so as to sort of demonstrate to their own people that the mullahs are very much in charge, that they are as strong as ever. I hope that that does not happen. I'm talking about a situation where a lot of people in Israel would be sacrificed, would become victims. And let's hope that it doesn't get to that. But anyway, so yes, and then of course the U.S. right now is worried primarily, I think, about the resurgence of ISIS, in centering on these people who are in the camps in eastern Syria. And I'm trying to find the number. I think it said 45,000, but I'm trying to find that. I'm pretty sure it said 45,000, but I don't have it right now. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot that they have sort of in sort of camps there in eastern Syria. Meanwhile, Rand Paul, and also I've also agreed with Rand Paul saying that those 900 U.S. troops need to be withdrawn. They should have been withdrawn during Trump's first term, and hoping that he will withdraw them now when he comes into the second term. But there's concern. Well, what effect will that have on those Kurdish forces who are keeping the lid on ISIS? If that is true, and I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what other people say about that. Okay. All righty then. Now, next stop, Ukraine. Let's go to the Guardian here. I hate to have to rely on these Marxist sources, but for Ukraine, and also I tend to rely a lot on Al Jazeera for Syria. Not papers that I would normally want to give a lot of credibility to, but yeah, you have to sort of read between the lines and sort of pick through them. So here, the Guardian, which is, it's connected to the Labour Party in the UK, and is very much Marxist background. Ukraine war briefing: NATO warns that Putin wants to wipe Ukraine off the map. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says people should gird themselves for the prospect that Russia might try to use swarms of drones in Europe, what we know in day 1024. So the new Secretary General Mark Rutte, this is at his sort of inauguration ceremony, saying that you wipe the Ukraine and come after other parts of Europe next. And this whole thing of Russia's going to come after other parts of Europe has been repeated again and again and again. That Poland's going to be next, or Romania's going to be next, or Moldova's going to be next, or things like this. I'm not convinced that that is true. And I think we have to keep open the possibility that this may be part of the Western or the NATO propaganda, so as to sort of keep countries in line. And I don't know. Is Putin really going to go after Poland? Do you think? Polish people or the Polish leadership seems to think so. I don't know. I'm one of the people who was saying that Putin would not invade Ukraine because it's not in his interest, and it turns out that I was right, and we were right. Everybody who said that invading Ukraine is not in his interest was right, but he did it anyway, because turns out he has his own views, and he's the one in charge. So when I say that, no, I don't think Putin's going to go after Poland. Yeah, well, maybe Polish people will not necessarily put their faith in what I say. And Biden announced another package of weapons aid for Ukraine on Thursday. That's yesterday. valued at $500 million, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said in a statement. White House spokesperson John Kirby said earlier the U.S. would continue to provide additional packages for Ukraine, quote, right up to the end of this administration, unquote. Oh, yeah. Washington said 10 days ago it would send Ukraine $725 million worth of missiles, ammunition, anti-personnel mines, and other weapons. Biden's outgoing administration is seeking to bolster Ukraine in tackling Russia's invasion before Biden's term ends in January when President-elect Donald Trump takes office. They're sending all sorts of stuff over there, it seems. They're trying to get it all in before Trump takes office on January 20th. And then meanwhile, President Trump says in an interview with Time magazine, where he was, of course, named a Person of the Year, that let's see what he says here. He has previously derided U.S. aid to Kiev, pressed on whether he would abandon Ukraine in its efforts to stave off Russian invasion. Trump said he would use U.S. support for Kiev as leverage against Moscow in negotiating an end to the war. I want to reach an agreement, he said, and the only way you're going to reach an agreement is not to abandon. Well, just a word about his being Time Person of the Year. That used to be something, but a lot, like a lot of institutions, I think Time Person of the Year has really declined, gone the way of the Boy Scouts and Disney and well, the heterosexual family, a lot of other institutions that have been undermined by the Marxist-Leninist forces in America today. And Time also, Time Person of the Year anyway. Yeah. But anyway, it's the second time he was given that designation. Some people call it an honor. I wouldn't necessarily call it an honor. I think it's a designation. In other words, it's whoever had the most influence on the world during the past year. And for example, I think Hitler and Stalin were also Time Persons of the Year back in their day. I think, I'm pretty sure that that's true. Yeah, 1938, Hitler was at times a Man of the Year. And so, based on that, I think it's not an honor. Chief Stalin was also. Well, twice also, yeah. 1939 and 1942. Right. It's who has the most influence on the world, whether positively or negatively. Okay. And I just checked True Father's name, but like I thought, True Father was never a Time Person of the Year, although they did do an extensive interview with him one time. All right, so let's see here. Where were we talking about? Okay, so anyway, Trump, second time to be his Person of the Year. And Ukraine's top military commander says fighting around a key eastern Ukraine city is extremely intense after a months-long Russian push. And I think Russia seems to be gaining ground, and because of that, perhaps Russia right now is not interested in talking to Kiev. And probably, I expect there will not be any serious negotiations before President Trump comes into office. And Zelensky's chief of staff said that Kiev was not yet ready to start talks with Russia, as it lacked the weapons, security guarantees, and international status that it sought. And Macron and Poland's prime minister Tusk said Ukraine must have pivotal role in any potential negotiations over Russia's war in the country. Okay. Let's see here, and so on and so forth. Okay. So that's pretty much what's going on there in Ukraine. Yeah, we can look at this now. Biden legacy record 3.5 million immigrants awarded U.S. citizenship. Now, according to Breitbart, and I think this is probably accurate, these are all legal immigrants. People came into the country legally, were awarded U.S. citizenship, and more people were awarded citizenship during Biden's administration than any other term. So you have a list here, and Trump's first term, just shy of 3 million people, and Obama there also just shy of 3 million in each of his administration, each of his 2 terms, and George W. Bush second term 3 million, and Biden almost 3.5 million. And apparently this increase is due to more efficient handling of applications. The waiting period has been reduced. Hey, yeah, there you go. The American government is getting more efficient. Really? Oh, that's what they say. That's what they say. Oh, man. It happens sometimes. It happens. I think I mentioned before, that when was it? Last year? This year? Last year, when I went to the immigration office in Korea to get my residence card, because they're going to let me reside there. And I was actually quite surprised, even shocked, to see how incredibly efficient that immigration office had become, because, living in Korea for 20 years, I'm a pretty regular customer of the immigration office. And in the past, it was, how can I say? Well, it was not efficient. It was crowded, and you had to go there, and basically you had to spend the whole day there. Kind of like DMV, right? Like DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles here in the United States, which also in some cases has become efficient. I'm surprised to find out. So anyway, maybe U.S. government too is catching the bug. Maybe it's also becoming efficient. I wouldn't put too much hope in that. But anyway, so more people than ever become U.S. citizens, which, the more people who can go through this process legally, I think it discourages or maybe takes away some of the incentive for people to go through it illegally, for people to come illegally. So anyway, I would say that counts as good news. Now, not so good news, but good news in that it's finally come to light, is that on January 6, 2021, as many people have been saying, the FBI had more than 24 informants among the crowd there on January 6th of 2021. This is the crowd around and in the Capitol. And 4 of them actually entered the Capitol, but none of them have been charged. Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz is saying this, and so this is a very credible source. On Thursday, revealed that more than 24 confidential human sources, or CHSs, get the abbreviation again, were outside the Capitol building during the January 6th protests. The FBI only assigned 3 CHSs to be present during the protest, and the report emphasized that none of the sources were authorized to or directed by the Bureau to break the law or encourage others to commit illegal acts. I'd like to see photographs of who those people were. But anyway, the report explained, today's report also details our findings regarding FBI CHSs who were in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. Our review determined that none of these FBI CHSs was authorized by the FBI. Oh boy. I hate to be a stickler, but let's reread that. None of these FBI CHSs were authorized by the FBI. I'm sorry. None is not a singular subject. Anyway, he takes the plural verb. Anyway, I tell you, I guess I don't teach grammar anymore. By the FBI to enter the capital or a restricted area or to otherwise break the law on January 6th, nor was any CHS directed by the FBI to encourage others to commit illegal acts on January 6th. One FBI field office tasked a CHS to travel to DC to report on the activities of a predicated domestic terrorism subject who was separately planning to travel to DC for the January 6th electoral certification. A second FBI field office tasked a CHS to travel to DC to potentially report on 2 domestic terrorism subjects from another FBI field office who were planning to travel to DC for the events of January 6th. And a third CHS who had informed their handling agent that they intended to travel to DC on their own initiative for the events of January 6th was similarly tasked by their field office to potentially report on 2 DT subjects. DT, I guess that stands for domestic terrorism, okay, from other FBI field offices who were planning to travel to DC for the events of January 6th. Why don't we just abbreviate the whole sentence, all right? Yeah, so AATCWHITHATTI. So just abbreviate the whole thing. The FBI, in reaction to the Horowitz report, stated that the Bureau did not have primary responsibility for intelligence collection or event security on January 6th, nonetheless recognized the potential for violence and took significant and appropriate steps to prepare for this supporting role. Further, the report includes the Office of the Inspector General's analysis regarding the FBI's use of confidential human sources, and concludes that no FBI CHSs were authorized to enter the Capitol or a restricted area or to otherwise break the law on January 6th, nor was any CHS directed by the FBI to encourage others to commit illegal acts on January 6th. It doesn't mean that they didn't do it, just that they weren't authorized, right? The Bureau also said it will accept the Inspector General's recommendations to assess the process and procedures it uses to prepare for events. This report confirms what we suspected, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan said in a statement to Fox News Digital. The FBI had encouraged and tasked confidential human sources to be at the Capitol that day. There were 26 total present. 4 entered the Capitol and weren't charged, which is not the same treatment that other Americans received. So if they were not authorized to enter the Capitol, and they did enter the Capitol, why has no action been taken against them? Right? They were not acting on authority of the FBI claims. So then they should be charged, just as civilians are being charged. And even people who are just sort of in and out, just very, very short time period have been charged. This has been our concern all along. Agencies being weaponized against the American people. It's not how our system is supposed to work, he added. Representative Thomas Massie wrote on Thursday, it's no coincidence that FBI Director Wray announced his resignation just prior to the release of the IG report exposing activities of FBI confidential human sources at the Capitol on January 6th. For 4 years, I pressed for answers on this. Now the malfeasance is finally exposed. It took 4 years. It took the election of President Trump, right? If President Trump had not been elected, I'll bet you that this report, even if it had been written with the content, even if it had been written in the content that it has now, would not have been made public, or maybe it would have been made public in a heavily redacted manner. So again, the Trump effect. Praise God, praise God, praise God. So another way in which I think the evil spell that has been over this country has been lifted. And now things are coming out that would not have not come out for 4 years. Now, this is just the beginning though, right? Just the beginning. And we'll see what happens when President Trump actually gets into office. And we have to pray that he will. About 38 days plus right now. 38 days plus right now. 38 days and probably about what? A few hours? 5 hours. It says here 4 hours, I think maybe 4 or 5 hours. Okay. Wow. But we need to continue to pray that the evil forces will not make a comeback. If they will, if they can. You know, I'm sure Pelosi, in particular, is planning something, or if not, then she's, you know, staying up nights trying to think of something. I got to do something, you know. Or Obama, you know. Oh no, the revolution! What's happening to the revolution? The revolution is going down the drain. Michael, I mean Michelle, I told you that this would happen. Why didn't you run? I told you this would happen. Oh boy. Let's hope that President Trump can continue on his current course. But he has to maintain the current course, and I think from God's eyes, you know, we get these emails and messages and stuff asking us, you know, what do you think President Trump should do? What is the most important thing that you would like to see President Trump do? And I got one of those, and I started to answer it, and I thought, wait a second, I better look at this from God's point of view. And what I finally came up with was that, you know, I prayed about it a little bit, and what I finally came up with is that from God's point of view, the most important thing that Trump can do, and needs to do, is to bring down the Chinese Communist Party. I know, you know, he's talking a lot about immigration. And, you know, of course, Chinese Communist Party is behind some of that as well. And he's talking, of course, he's talking about you know, the rivalry with China. And of course, there's the Ukraine, there's the Middle East, there's Russia, there's all sorts of stuff. But really, from God's point of view, communism is the enemy of God, as the king has pointed out many, many times. Communism is the enemy of God, and right now, the number one communist force in the world is the Chinese Communist Party. And somehow during these 4 years, President Trump has to, I believe that is his responsibility to destroy the Chinese Communist Party. I'm not sure what would follow that. Like in Syria, there may be some confusion and so forth and so on. But God will certainly guide the Chinese people through that kind of chaos and through that kind of pandemonium, if it can be brought down. I think that's probably where our prayers should focus on also. He's doing, you know, he's doing a lot of good already in terms of the Trump effect in various fields. He has a tremendous providential mission to accomplish. And I believe he will. I believe he will accomplish it. And I believe that because I think he is sincere in his effort. You know, he's not after power. He's not after money. I think he is an example of a true patriot. And he also put his life on the line, literally put his life on the line to fight the forces that came out against him. Because as he said, they were not going after him, they were going after us, his supporters, and also they were going after America. And now that he has won his position to put those people back in their box, like the ISIS in the prison camps in eastern Syria. I hope that he is successful to do that. And of course, Xi Jinping has to be the prime prisoner, the head prisoner in that prison camp of communist forces. All right, gotta go. I will see you on Monday. God bless, Godspeed. May his kingdom come quickly.